Hi, everyone. This is Dr. Gayle Carson. Welcome to Living Regret Free, a program that shows you how to live a better and more joyful life. As an added bonus, I invite you to listen to an introduction to my Mindset Matters program, which ties into this so well. Go to www.sobmindset.com. It's free, and I know you will enjoy it. If you'd like to contact me personally, drop me a line at gaylecarson13@gmail.com or go to my website, www.spunkyoldbroad.com, and sign up for my weekly newsletter.
Hi, everyone. We are in for a delightful day. My guest is Dr. Brenda Bowers, and she has over 35 years of healthcare experience to Wheaton Franciscan Healthcare and their broader communities. Her passion and expertise lies in the areas of psychology, substance abuse, and professional counseling with the goal of advancing a healthier society through a faith-based and holistic lens. Her best-selling book, World Changers and Difference Makers, a comprehensive guide to transform your life and mend the world one sphere at a time, transformative formulas and processes will give you the tools you need to be a world changer and a difference maker for you, your spouse, family, team, business, ultimately making a positive impact on the world we live in, 1 second at a time, one word at a time, one sphere at a time. Welcome, Brenda.
Thank you so much, Gail, for giving me the opportunity to be part of the great work that you're doing every day. I appreciate being here today.
Well, you've got a lot of great points that I know you want to make. And the first one I'm going to ask you is why we apologize to others for who we are. And I have to say that this is something that women do more than men. And I notice that, let's say, of 10 people I meet, 5 will always say, oh, I'm sorry, or I'm sorry, or I'm sorry. And you really shouldn't be saying I'm sorry for something that really isn't your fault, but it's something that's ingrained in us, I think. So why is it that we apologize to others for who we are?
I cannot agree with you more, Gail. I think that part of just the essence of living regret free is so relevant in the 21st century still, just like it was in the centuries that preceded us. It's unfortunate that it remains a valid, viable area that we need to continue to talk about. And I think that people live regretful because of low self-esteem, past trauma, some self-imposed failures, along with the impositions from others. And sometimes it's just what I call lopsided truth. It can be true, but it's not conviction worthy. So sometimes we're apologizing for things that it's not even worthy of apology. In fact, it may be worthy of a thank you. But I think that we have been ingrained over centuries, especially women, to have this lower level of self-esteem, to give deference to a greater voice, and to also be the pincushions and to take the blame when that is absolutely not the case.
So where do you think the seed got planted that made people feel that perhaps they're not as much as they should be? Is that how they were raised? Is it the examples that they've seen growing up? Does it come from books that they've read? I mean, where does this come from?
Yes, I think all of those. I think the rearing and the raising, because the books reinforce the rearing and the raising. I think from infant to adolescent, we are put in a position to not validate our worth, but rather to apologize for it. So now that we're kind of at this place that we're as low as we can go, do we even know who we are? Or do we live in this valley of regret because the core has been the seed, the record that plays over and over in our mind is, wow, I have so much to offer, but that can't be coming from me. I'm not good enough to say that. I sure will be glad when someone says this great idea I have so I can jump on that wagon. Well, sometimes we never hear that great idea because we've never allowed ourselves nor have our predecessors, families, friends, frenemies, enemies, allowed us to feel worthy of having a voice. That's another reason I'm so excited about the podcast platform where you're able to just say, hey, live regret free. And people probably look at that and say, huh? What in the world
They do.
does that mean?
Yeah, but you say that living a regret-free life is really it comes from being self-aware, and it gives you a foundation for it. And I do think that's true, but I also think that people are self-aware of the wrong things rather than the right things. So how does that play into it?
That is such a great point because one of the things that I talk about in my book is we can affirm. Affirmations are a huge thing and they are very important. But affirmations are simply that. They're something that's positive that we're saying. We need to have, along with affirmation, validation, because validation then tests the authenticity of the affirmation. Are we just saying something positive? Or when we really test that and validate it, is it really who we are? Or are we pretending to be someone who the world wants us to be, someone who we think they want us to be? Are we trying to be someone we're not for the myriad of reasons, often because we've only learned part of the equation? We've learned to affirm, but we haven't learned to validate the affirmation. It's great for me to say, I am happy. I am happy. I am going to have a regret free life. And I can say that 100 times every day. But now when I test that against my behaviors, am I actually being true to myself? Am I willing to be accountable for the validation, or do I just want to be recognized for the affirmation?
That's so true. I mean, I've said this on air many times, but when I was a kid, my mom used to say, you have to love yourself first before you can love anybody else. You have to be able to look in the mirror and say, I like the person that you are. And a lot of people might think that's conceit, but it isn't. It's really belief in self. And if you can do that, then that kind of gives you the roadmap to how to treat everybody else. So do you find that the relationship that people have with themselves has a great deal of impact on their relationship with other people?
Oh, absolutely. I look at life in my book from this spherical standpoint. And the nucleus of this 5-level sphere of this first life, this first intelligence world that I call it, is self-awareness. So the nucleus of it is around some basic questions. How well do I like myself? How well do I manage myself? How frustrated am I with myself right now? Those are some awareness questions to help us really know how aware we are. But then we have to be willing to ask ourselves, what is my relationship with myself? And is it such that others should desire to have a relationship with me? If I don't like me, should I expect anyone else to? So, how well do I know myself? Do I really want to know myself? And am I someone who anyone else should want to know? Because that takes that concept. My mom did the same with me. It takes that concept of you have to love yourself first, deeper, so that we now can start unpeeling that onion to say, what does it mean to love myself? Well, do you even know who you are? And how well do you know yourself? And more importantly, if you don't like you, why should someone else? If we don't
Well,
have that basis, that foundation, then we're already living a very regretful life.
That is so true. I really wonder how many people go to bed at night and say, I really like you. I really like what you did today. I really like what happened to you. I really like how you treated people. And you talk about how people show up and how people interact with you. Um, do you think that, well, I guess I could ask you, supposing everything is wonderful and everything is going along great, and one person does something to you in a day, and it just funks out your entire day. You just think, I can't believe this person said that or did that or whatever. And you have to rise above that and just say, this is on them, not me. So how does your presence impact living regret-free?
Well, I really think, first of all, we all have to admit that we have those days. And in fact,
Oh,
sometimes we have many of those moments within our day, right? So we can have so many of them if we're in a crowd of people who don't share our values and we're being dealt all these darts of negativity throughout the day, then we go home and we are wiped out to the point that we can ask ourselves, why am I even alive? Oh my goodness, I did a horrible job today defending my own truth or being around these individuals. And again, we take the blame on ourselves. So, a very important aspect that I teach is once you're aware, that's great. And once you have a relationship with yourself first, that's even more wonderful. But now there's something called authorial presence. And authorial presence, the way that I define that is you always keep the pen of authorship of your presence in your hand. You never
I like that.
surrender.
I like that.
You
Yeah,
never ever surrender the authorship of your presence, because what we tend to do, we don't even show up with just one pen, Gayle. We'll show up with a basket and we'll give our authorship away to everybody around us, when what we need to do is never, ever, ever surrender the pen of authorship, of authority, to write our own presence. Whatever someone else does to us, as long as we are the authors of our presence, we can still show up with power.
It's interesting, Brenda. Not only do you, I love that. I love your phraseology there. But then we tell everybody who can't do anything about it. We go about saying, you can't believe what she did to me. You can't believe what he said to me. You can't believe, and they can't do a thing about it. But do you ever go to the person and say, why did you do this to me? Or what could I have changed to make this better for us? Or how could we have changed the situation? No, you go to everybody who has nothing, can't do anything about it, which is always amazing to me.
So, because then we're just digging deeper. We're digging that hole deeper when we do that.
Absolutely. So what do you think that people need in terms of knowledge or understanding or wisdom so that they can live a regret-free life?
Well, I think that we need to step back and stop underestimating the power of I am. Those two words remain so powerful. In fact, they are considered the two most powerful words that anyone can ever say, because the words I am precede the subconscious beliefs that we program ourselves with. And therefore, we literally are telling ourselves how we feel in our mind, how we feel in our body, and how we feel in our soul. So we can't live regret-free if we're also going to accept the blame for everything that goes on, never be accountable, and never be responsible. So another easy way I like to present that is the AAA policy. I say we all have a AAA policy, and guess what? It's in force and your premiums are paid in full. And AAA is accountable always. Always accountable always. That's AAA. The front and back is always, and the meat in the middle is accountable. I'm always accountable always. So if I accept and believe that, if I hold myself true to my AAA policy that I'm always accountable always, then that will give me the strength to say, I am disappointed in what I heard today, and I would really like to validate that what I heard is what you said and meant. Or even to ourselves when we get home and we look at ourselves in the mirror and we can say, I am so proud of how you handled yourself today. You held on to that pen of authorship of your presence when 1,000 people tried to snatch it out. You held on to it. So now we have to start dealing with affirmation, with validation, and now these two powerful words of I am. And I ask people to just introduce yourself with one word that follows I am. So I could say, hi, Gayle. Instead of saying, I am Brenda Bowers, I could say, hi, Gayle, I am special. Hi, Gayle, I am inspiring. And teach ourselves to say, I am, fill in the blank before we ever put our clothes on in the morning. What am I affirming and validating that I am before I ever present myself to anyone else? Because the person who needs it the most is me. I owe it to myself to be the best me to myself.
Boy, I sure agree with that. So is that kind of the first step in preparing yourself to live regret-free, or what other suggestions do you have?
Well, I think that those are some key critical steps. And I looked at your steps, and I think that ours align so well. We call them different things, but they're really getting to the same place. So we do have to learn. Once we're aware of the type of person we are, once we admit it, once we admit and say, you know what, I have lived a toxic life and I have allowed it. I've tolerated it because I was told it was the only thing I could do. And now I found this incredible lady. Her name is Gayle. And let me tell you what Gayle taught me to do. She taught me to be more aware of me. If you don't know Gayle Carson, you need to meet her, because I learned how to be aware of myself. I learned how to have a relationship with myself. I learned how I can show up and be regret-free. It's okay that I had a bad night last night. It's okay. And I'm still sufficient when I show up tomorrow because I'm true to myself. One of the research things that still holds to be very impressive to me is that we have about 45,000 to 51,000 thoughts a day. That's about 150 to 300 thoughts a minute. And for most of us, 80% of those thoughts are negative. So most of these up to 51,000 thoughts are subconscious thoughts that define us, but they never affirm us because they're below our conscious awareness level. So when we affirm and validate, that actually serves as a catalyst to make our subconscious thoughts more conscious. So when we become more consciously aware of our thoughts, now we can live regret-free. And just to take that one step further, it gets even worse. Whatever you're thinking about, 90% of that gets carried over into the next day's 51,000 thoughts. So if you're thinking negative thoughts, you will cause yourself to think more negative thoughts. So we need to make sure that we are getting rid of, and I believe as Dr. Amen said, we have these automatic negative thoughts that we can't stop, but what we can always do is manage our affirmations and validations, and then we can kill every ant that comes to overtake those 51 thoughts in our mind.
So you must have had key people in your life, Brenda, that influenced you to live regret-free. Or if you didn't have them in your life, you brought them into your life, whether it be through, again, reading or taking classes or just observing. So what key people did you have in your life that influenced you to be able to live regret-free?
Oh, I have incredible people that I look to. And some of that is from books that we read growing up. Some of it was as simple as phonics that they don't teach anymore, or handwriting that's not taught in classes anymore because of our technological advances. But it was some of those sound this out that helped me be able to sound out my life. I've lived a life of regret for most of my life. My dad died when I was 14, and he died at the age of 50, and he was my best friend. I was number 6 of 7, and the oldest child is a girl. I have one sister, phenomenal, and she was the oldest, and then there were 4 boys, and then 13 years later there was me. So my dad took me everywhere, and he taught me all this cool stuff, and he promised that he would be there for me forever. And then when I was 14, he wasn't anymore. So I had to go from a place that was deeper than death. In my experience at that time, I was physically abused, sexually abused. I was a teenage mom. I was told that the world was worse off because of me. I had a lot of negative things, but I had a couple of people, and one of them is my maternal grandmother, who took me under her wing, and she would go to different people's homes because she was a caterer. Very, very unusual in her day and time. And she would take me with her. And when we were in the kitchen, she gave me, I remember this so vividly, an empty silver platter. And she told me to close my eyes. And I did. And she put that platter in my hand. And she said, I want you to feel it. I want you to know how much it weighs. I want you to know if I put a penny on that platter, how different it is. And then she said, I'm going to fill this up with hors d'oeuvres. And you're going to go out and you are going to walk in and out among these real important people. And when this platter is empty again, without you ever looking at it, you come back in the kitchen and I'm going to fill it up again. So that silver platter concept was able to pull me out of death's door when I did not want to live. My mom was mourning, and I could remember this silver platter status that told me I didn't have to tolerate abuse. I didn't have to tolerate toxicity. Well, how did carrying hors d'oeuvres give me that kind of message? Because I was able to look at her life. My grandmother, someone who had not even an 8th grade education, someone who didn't drive ever, and someone who made sure that her family, I thought we were the richest people in the world, only to find out when I was a teenager that we were flat broke and the things that we did was so we could have a loaf of bread. Who knew that? I thought we were the richest people on the planet. So it's people like that. And then I
Well,
also,
Brenda,
go ahead.
I'm going to have to cut you off. because
I'm
we're coming to the
sorry. I'm
show.
sorry.
That's
I'm
all
going
right.
on.
I want people to know how to reach you, though. Where can they find you?
They can reach me through social media, Brenda Bowers, whether on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter. They can also go to my website, which is awordforyou.com, and that's AWORD, the number 4, the letter U, affirmationsforyourself.com. And they can also contact me via email at drbrendaB@awordforyou.com. That's DRBRENDAB@awordforyou.com. And I would love for people to reach out because my book is a comprehensive guide and it takes teaching. Just as you know, Gayle, we can give these highlights, but where the true transformation happens when we're able to work with individuals.
Absolutely. Well, folks, go to Brenda's website, Dr. Brenda Bowers. The website is www.aword, the number 4, the letter U, awordforyou.com. Brenda, thank you so much for being with us today. We've really enjoyed it, and I can't tell you how much your thoughts really have impacted a lot of my thinking as well. So thank you so much for being with us today.
And Gayle, your work has done the same for me. So continue to live regret-free because that's my goal as well as we change this world, because I believe we can by living regret-free. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Hi, this is Dr. Gayle, and I wanted you to know I have a whole bunch of other things to offer you. If you go to spunkyoldbroad.com, you will see an array of SOB stuff for sale and all our latest products and additions. If you're interested in getting on TV, I have a brand new course, Get on TV. And if you want to start your own business, you'll want my SOB Guide to Business Success. I know you'll love them all. I guarantee it.
Thanks for listening, and I hope you enjoyed today's show. I choose my guests carefully, so if you have someone you'd like me to interview, please drop me a line at gaylecarson13@gmail.com. In the meantime, check out my intro program, Mindset Matters, at www.sobmindset.com. See you next week.